Bushels and Beef Farm Tour and Podcast, where producers talk markets, share stories, and cut through the noise in agriculture.
You know what keeps ranchers up at night? Watching cattle prices drop after you've already committed to feeding them for 6 months. I'm Nick, and on today's Bushels and Beef podcast, we've got Rich and Steven, two guys who actually live this every day. Before we jump into today's podcast, we want to highlight our sponsor, Logic Ag Marketing. Logic Ag Marketing is committed to enhancing the success of their clients and producers, serving as an advocate to manage their risk and secure the lasting prosperity to enable the handoff of their farm or ranch to the next generation. Today we've got Rich and Steven. Rich knows LRP inside and out, and Steven's a newer commodity broker who's also a rancher. We're talking risk management, ranch life, and the tools that work when the markets get ugly. I'll let you two give a quick intro as well and share some of your background and ranching experience too. So Steven, I'll let you go first.
Hey, good morning, Nick. Thanks for having me on. My name is Steven Edoff, as you mentioned, and I grew up East Rapid City, about 35 miles on a cow-calf operation. We put up a little bit of hay in the summertime, and I think my grandpa was one of the only guys to put up loose stack hay in the 21st century. So I got to be a part of that growing up, and I've been a banker for about the last 8 years until I joined Logic here about 4 or 5 months ago, and I'm a licensed commodity broker now, and I get to work with Rich Canupi every day, so my life's always exciting. I don't have a mustache yet, which I've been working on maybe growing one, but I don't know. We'll see.
I feel like that's got to be a requirement up there in the South Dakota office for sure.
Yeah, I think so.
Rich probably has some special spray that you could probably borrow and get that thing growing.
Natural over here.
At one point, I was working on a mullet, but it just it wasn't me. So
gave it a shot, though. That's all.
Gave it a whirl.
Rich, what about yourself?
Yeah, so same thing, very similar. Grew up south of Rapid City, about 60, 70 miles on there. Cow-calf operation, about as simple as you could imagine. I'm going to even one up, and I've never put up a bale of hay in my life, so we do all winter grazing on there. We worked for a lending institution or crop insurance for the last 10 years. During that time, it was actually pretty interesting. As I went further east down there, I did see operations that were a little more complex, or maybe did a little more backgrounding or finishing cattle on everything. So with that lending experience and the crop insurance side, it kind of opened my eyes to a little bit other options than we have out here in western South Dakota. Yeah, similar to Steve, just been with Logic Ag here for about 6-7 months. Really excited for the opportunity that we got here. And we talked about it this morning. What we do is truly helping our customers, and so it's pretty exciting to do that. Where we're literally just trying to help these guys protect their bottom line, and we got the tools to do it.
Awesome. I mean, let's touch on your mustache too, real quick. I mean, does that thing grow back within a day, or?
Yeah, it does. I am noticing. When I was a young whippersnapper, I had to put a little work and time into it. This thing, it's like. If you've ever met my dad, he's got one that's a little fuller than mine, but someday I aspire to be there.
All right, so it runs in the family. All right.
That's right.
Oh, man. All right. Before we get into the business side, let's keep talking about real life here. What's a ranch moment from the last week that had both of you guys rolling your eyes? Rich, you want to start?
Yeah, a couple weeks ago, I bought a bunch of heifers. I'm going to the replacement heifers, and then we got some home raised stuff that we sent over east to background, and we'll get them bred over there and everything. But obviously, you set your Bangs vaccinating date about a month earlier, and I just so happened to pick it on the coldest day of the year so far.
No, it's not so much the cold; it's the wind and the snow. And actually, I take it back. I think it is the cold too.
Whoa! We've had a very mild year. And we just had like 100-mile-an-hour winds, and there was black ice. So we had to drive 3 hours on slick roads, get up at 4 a.m, get there, do that all day. So I'm still a little bit frosty on my eyes here, got quite a bit of wind burn. And it was one of those days. It was a good day. It was a great day. We got everything done, which is always, all the goal you set out to finish and get it done. And, but boy, driving back, I was sleepy, and I was thinking that was a day that you wonder about sometimes.
That's definitely a good eye roll, or a bad eye roll, I guess, whichever way you want to take it. But I do know too that Rich, you were just out on a ski trip too, and I do have to ask, how does a cowboy handle the skis? Is it a helmet or a cowboy hat fancy ski
No,
pants or Carhartts? Like, what's the vibe out there for you?
I did not bring a cowboy hat, and that was unfortunate because I didn't fall down. I did pretty good. That I was definitely, head to toe Carhartt. Got a few comments on that, but I felt like I held my own because I didn't fall down. But the tough part was we had about 9 kids, 11 and under, that had never skied before, and so along with about 1,000 other people that had come to Deadwood for a ski trip there. And so it was about 15 minutes. I was in a pretty dark place. I'd obviously maybe whooped it up a little too hard the day before, and then I've got these kids that are just falling, and you can't catch them because once they start going down, it's not like, what are you gonna do? So it was a little wild there, but then we just kind of said, figure it out, like, buck up, you're going up the big hill, and just threw them in the water, I guess.
I guess wrangling calves for vaccinations or wrangling kids on a ski slope, which one's harder?
Yeah. If it would have the whole day would have gone like it did at the start of the skiing trip, I think I would have rather just give Bangs vaccinated calves.
Oh man, good times though. Oh geez. What about you, Steven? Anything from the past week or a couple weeks that had your eyes rolling with your operation?
So not really, but after hearing Rich's Bangs vaccinating story there, we Bangs vaccinated. I took my heifer calves down to a buddies of mine down by Scenic this year, and Bangs vaccinated them here about a week ago. And I think the high was about 63 that day. Had a bunch of neighbors over to help. Life was good. Nobody had frosty mustaches or eyelashes. Life was pretty good for us that day. And
how the rich live.
Yeah.
Otherwise, winter treating the cattle okay so far? Not too bad a winter, you're saying?
Yeah, it's been really good for them. I thought, but these calves that this guy was feeding down there, he does a really good job on them, and I thought they've looked about as good as they ever have. So it's good to have a neighbor like him around to take care of some of that stuff for us. So.
Awesome. Sounds like the new year is going to be starting off on the right hoof then, for sure.
Definitely.
Awesome. All right. Let's shift into LRP and some risk management too, because that's probably creating some eye rolls, throughout the last year or two, or at least the last couple of months. So we're going to lead into our segment here called The Main Dish. We're going to be talking about LRP and some ranch life too. So Rich, you've been helping producers with LRP for a long time. Steven, you had mentioned too that you just got your Series 3 and you're working on your insurance license too. So I'll have either one of you here, maybe more so Rich. Let's just start with like the basics. What is livestock risk protection, and why should a rancher even care about it?
Well, the simplest way to look at it is it's just a subsidized put. And so, we use the board to set the price. We settle using the feeder cattle index. And so, so let me back up there, I guess, a little bit. It's like a subsidized put, and the fact that you're just putting a bottom on your cattle and you're leaving the top side open. So, I always say if you want to hit the home run, LRP's your ticket on there, and just leave it alone on that. And if it goes higher, you're great. You pay your premium. If not, you're made whole with the LRP indemnity on there. But what makes it better than a put, in my opinion, is that it's subsidized. So it's going to be about 65% of the cost of a put. And then the other thing is that you don't pay that bill till the end of the period on there. So if I put it on for August 15th, that bill won't be due till September 30th on there. So you kind of got an interest-free loan protecting those cattle. And I tell guys all the time, and I wholeheartedly mean it, like I hope you have to pay your premium, because that means we're still in these record high prices and you should still be making money on there. And if you can get guys to kind of be like, okay, yeah, I'm okay with that. Well, then I think LRP is the right fit for them. They understand that, yeah, they might be out their premium, but they're still going to lock in record net prices on there. You talked about moments that made me roll my eyes last week. Originally, I thought you were talking about like LRP guys, and Steven and I talked about one this morning where the guy said, yeah, I've used LRP, but it just didn't work for me. And it's like, that is my biggest eye roll in the world, because LRP is my baby. Like, I love it. I think it works good. I know it works good. And when people say it doesn't work, it's like, okay, did it not work, or did you not understand how it's supposed to work? Because it's not a cash casino. It's not just going to pour in and you make money no matter what. But at point X, you were plumb happy with this price on there. And then the worst thing that happened is that we went up another 50 cents. And it's like, and then you're out your premium. So the LRP protected your downside, and then it let you capture the So in my mind, it's like, no, it worked perfect for you. Like that is exactly how we want it to work. And like I said, if you're paying your premium, you're able to lock in likely higher prices for next year on there. And it's just a really good spot to be.
With some of those like objections, like how do you usually address those, or what are some of the common objectives that they aren't, pursuing the LRP?
Well, they'll talk about cost. Oh, it's too expensive. And I mean, I'll argue till I'm blue in the face that it's the most important expense a producer can have. If I always say, if I say I've got the best cattle, I buy the most expensive bulls, I buy the highest priced protein out there, I do this and that. If the market's not there, none of that other stuff matters. You set the market first, and then you can say, okay, now I can afford to pay this much for bulls and this much for grass and this much for mineral. And as far as backwards is saying, oh, we put and invested all this money into this cattle to get this calf or this feeder out here. And then the one thing that actually controls if we make money or lose money, we didn't do anything with that. We just went with a gut feeling that, oh yeah, the cattle numbers are low and the price is going to stay high. Because like this year, actually, I'd say in the last 5 years, since they made the changes to LRP to make it a lot more appealing to everybody on there, I've pretty much done LRP year in and year out. And, some years I got a nice payment, some years I had to pay in there. But overall, I'd say I've about broke even on it. And so if I go talk to Joe Farmer down the road and they say, well, you dummy, like you've been paying all that money in, I haven't paid anything and I'm, selling my calves. And I'll say, well, that's great, because for the last 5 years, the market's done pretty much nothing but go up. And so, don't judge me on my winners, judge me on the losers. And when this market goes down, there's going to be a huge gap between the haves and the have-nots, and the guys that had their cattle protected and the guys that didn't. And I guarantee you're going to be hearing from those ones that don't. They're going to be screaming the loudest about what they, what Trump said, or what tariff came on, or what Mexico or border opened up on there, and how much that's BS. The fact of the matter is, I ask every one of those guys, and it's usually a pretty, I wouldn't say tense conversation, but like they don't like it when I ask them. I said, did you have the chance to lock in these prices? And the answer is always yes. And it's like, well, then don't blame politics, don't blame whatever you want to put the blame on. Like, it's, you had a chance to price these calves and greed got in the way because you're scared of spending $100.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I just hit you with a lot of them there. Obviously, I get fired up about that. Like, it works, guys.
No,
Nick, I've seen it firsthand. With Rich. You were talking about like some of the objections. I think that the thing that he does better than anybody else is education and helping guys truly understand, like, we're not just going to set this thing and forget about you. We're here for the long run. And I've seen him do it firsthand. We were on the phone with a guy the other day, driving down the road, and he was like, yeah, I tried LRP one time and it just didn't work for me. And I literally looked over at Rich and I could see the eyes roll in the back of his head. And I was just willing to let it go. But Rich was like, no, this guy needs to understand, whether he does it through us or somebody else, he needs to understand it. He did. He spent the next 10 minutes going through where the feeder cattle index settled on the day that guy sold his calves. And I think by the time that conversation was done, what do you think, Rich? The guy was like, okay, well, yeah, maybe we
don't got the business yet, but I do think I do think he's at least willing to say, okay, maybe I don't understand it as well as I thought I understand it. And sometimes I think that's our biggest, one of the biggest problems with LRP out there is there's a lot of agents that got ready to sell LRP and maybe didn't understand it, and then made a bunch of promises that weren't accurate on there, and then left, people got a bad taste in their mouth because it didn't perform like that agent said it. It's like, well, that's why you need to do business with people that live it inside and out. And I do. Like I literally, 5 years ago, like I said, with the place I was at, we didn't even offer LRP. There was a gal that went on maternity leave, and so my boss was like, hey, would you look into this? And like the more and more I did it, I was like, yeah, this kind of makes sense. And then you're kind of like, am I the only one that doesn't realize that this is a good deal? And then so we just dove further and further and further into it, and then pretty soon it's like, yeah, I believe in this, and I can sell this because it works. And ever since then, it's just been an exploding product. And honestly, I think it has a lot to do with the success of the cattle market that we've had the last couple of years, because guys can afford to pay more because they can protect that. And it also, I'll tell you what, this is kind of getting off topic here, but the other thing that LRP does is, in our neck of the woods anyways, like the board was always like the big bad board, like, we don't mess around with that. That's how people go broke. And what LRP has done is kind of given us okay, maybe it's they kind of understand the LRP, and then it's like, well, now if you compare that with how the board works, it's not as scary as the guy makes it out to be. And so I think it's gotten producers a little bit more willing to look into that, just with the education that comes along with the LRP. It's maybe not as daunting at first, and then once you have that baseline, then you just add the board on top of it.
Yeah, I feel like that's a really unique part of working with Logic Ag too, is a lot of you guys have hands-on experience, like Steven and Rich. You guys are, working Logic Ag hours, but then you also got your own hours with your own operations, utilizing the tools that you guys are, selling and talking about here. And it's that extra education piece, I think, that really makes you guys stand out too. You have the real life use case scenario and you're selling it at the same time. And, while we were on the Bushels and Beef tour, a lot of these guys are just looking for education too, whether that's on the commodity side or the cattle side too. So, when you guys come in with your knowledge, that's like a huge differentiator in terms of like who to go with and what service provider to use too. So yeah, I think that's such a unique position that you guys have.
A little bit or something, but I was going to say we were on the phone with a guy today, and I think that's the coolest thing about Logic Ag is the guy that we were visiting with. He was like, I don't know, like, I'm not really sure that LRPs for me. I would probably rather just buy a put and use the board. And it's like, well, tell you what, like our Logic Ag, like Steven and Rich Canopy out here, like we can tailor whatever your risk management strategy needs to be. We'll tailor it to you. If you want to start with LRP, which Rich and I are both firm believers that is step one. And depending on what happens to the market after that, like as licensed commodities brokers, we have the ability to use the board, and literally no matter what happens to the market, I truly think that we're the guys that you need to be doing business with. I don't, Rich, we've talked about it, but I'm sure you'd agree.
Well, like what I think is kind of neat is, we're cow-calf operators out here. We have a lot of grass cattle out in Wyoming we cover, and western South Dakota. But then it's like, and then we've got, guys in Storm Lake that they're more on the backgrounding side or the finishing side on there. And it's, that's something that Steve and I don't really have, any experience in. But
we
now just having that expertise. Right. Yeah. We got East River. We're like, hell, that's corn and soybeans. But it'll be eventually, I fully intend on like, okay, can we represent our cattle out here in the West and put them in touch with somebody over in Iowa to help finish these cattle, or maybe they buy them from Iowa on there. I think there's just going to be a lot of opportunities to connect producers and kind of see the whole thing through.
Mm-hmm. Steven, from your banking days, did you see producers using LRP, or it sounds like some people knew about it but didn't actually use it, and people knew about it but maybe they were skeptical of it. From your banking experience, how did you see LRP used?
Yeah, to be honest with you, Nick, I didn't fully understand it. We had guys that we would, from a credit quality or credit risk standpoint, if their deal was a little bit rocky, we might throw a condition on there that, hey, you need to put some price protection on them. And LRP is usually where we started. And obviously I was working with Rich Canopy at the time over there, so we would send him his way. But I don't know, it seems like 50 to 70% of people would, they'd put LRP on 1 year. It didn't seem like I necessarily saw a lot of consistency with it on the banking side, but not that they weren't doing it. It was just that I was more focused on working capital and what the earnings trend was. I probably didn't understand it well enough at the time to pay too close attention, honestly. Yep. If guys would tell me they had it put on, it was like, great, that's I'll pass it on to my credit committee and we'll try to get this deal put together for you. So
yeah, I'd say even like sometimes I would I would present to underwriters and I could tell that most of them didn't really understand it, which, I mean, it's a simple product, but to know all the nuances of it and how it can really be used, especially for guys that are like buying calves or even buying bred cattle on there, I still think we're at the tip of the iceberg of the early adapters. There's a while there where you could go buy a solid mouth cow for $2,300 and insure a calf for $1,900, $2,000. And it's like, we should be open the checkbook on that. If guys are willing to put LRP on there, like you will make money on that deal. And, you know, there's been several of those instances where things kind of line up, and it's like, making sure the lender understands that. But if the customer understands that, then all of a sudden they kind of feel like I did when I first figured out LRP. It was like, why isn't everybody doing this? And, you know, take away that risk. I would say take away 99% of the risk and leave your top side open. Like, pretty good spot to start out at.
Rich, walk us through a scenario here. Let's say I'm a rancher and I've got feeder cattle coming off my grass in my backyard here in Des Moines in the fall, and I'm worried about prices dropping. What does using LRP look like in that scenario then?
Well, yeah, whether it's feeder cattle or cow-calf or anything, whatever your end date is, you know, you're essentially saying, okay, I'm happy with this price right now, or I can make money at this price right now. Maybe it is. I'm worried about the upcoming factors that could affect it, whether it's a black swan event or something, you know, with the actual beef supply and demand on there. I'm going to set a bottom. We can get into how basis works and everything, but I'm going to set a bottom of point X and know that my worst case scenario, I'll be covered up to that, while leaving the top side open on there. So, you know, I think a lot of people in the last year, when they're kind of trading around the board on there, maybe got a master's level or doctorate level in like margin calls. And back to what we were talking about earlier, if your guy, you're saying you're going to finish some cattle on here, if he's worried about margin calls and just is fine saying, I want to spend X to protect X, and if it rises, I'm going to take part of it, and then LRP is probably a pretty good fit for him. If cost becomes a concern and they want to cheapen it up, well, that's where we bring Steven in, and he'd work on doing some things to try and cheapen that up. But the simplest way is like, hey, we've set our bottom. We're going to leave the top side open, and I'm going to give up a little bit to do that. And again, hope I pay the whole thing because the market went bananas and we got $250 fat cattle. And we talked to Steven and I and Shane all went out to a guy in winter, and they had, I can't remember, 15,000 head that they were this close to putting LRP on. And then of course they didn't, because they're going to wait because it's going to cheapen up. And then they didn't. And then Trump started talking, and then the markets go down. And it's like, just getting people to understand how, I know people understand how much they're losing when that market's going down. But sometimes just having that dollar figure handy of saying, okay, is this sleep at night coverage? It's probably worth just the peace of mind of knowing that you've got that asset protected on there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think that's part of where another thing that's probably, another benefit to doing business with us is, that's like the first question I ask a guy when we're having these conversations is, do you know where your break even is? Like, is what we're putting on today, is it $200 a head more than what your break even is? Or, just helping guys understand what their cost of production is pretty critical in this entire thing. It really brings the whole picture into light, I feel like. So
specifically on our cow-calf guys right now, if in our neck of the woods, it's probably $1,200. And I'd say that's pretty conservative on there, a $1,200 break even on there. And we're, north of 2,000 at least on what we're able to lock in on LRP. You're talking about an industry that over the last 30 years, cow-calf has averaged like $100 a head net profit over 30 years. And now we're talking $900 to $1,000 a head. And guys are still saying like, I don't know, it could go higher. And it's like, well, it could, but if it can go up that fast, it can come down that fast too.
So the big takeaway here really is LRP is protection, not speculation. It's a floor without a ceiling, and it's more affordable than most people think because of the USDA subsidy, right?
Yep, bingo.
Yep.
All right, and so
if you look at the cost as a percentage wise, it ends up being like 4% of whatever the total value. Guys have said, "Boy, it's getting more expensive. It's getting more expensive." And it's like, well, yeah, we added $1,000 onto what your calf was worth last year. Like, of course, it's going to be more expensive. Again, we're after net. Net is what makes you money.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. Sometimes I feel like people get too concerned about that top line when really it's the bottom line is obviously the main number there.
Right.
I used to work for this guy, and that was always his comment. He said, that's really great that you made that much money, but we're worried about how much of that you get to keep. So
mm-hmm. Definitely. So if you're a rancher and you've never looked into LRP, definitely talk to Rich here and Steven as well too. So Now, before we wrap up here, is there anything else you guys want to add? Otherwise, I've got a couple quick questions for you guys to close out our call here.
I'd just like to throw out
I'd say maybe
how great our wives are.
great point.
Love it.
Ditto.
And the reason for that, Steven?
Boy, Nick, what are you doing? Well, they're just.
That was it.
They're
That was
really
just a blanket
great.
statement. It's all good there.
The list is too long, Nick. I can narrow it down to one thing.
That's right.
that
We've
my
got
wife
to
does
we've
right.
got to wrap this thing up. We're running short on time, but
All right.
that was definitely a great comment by Steven there. The list is too long.
Yeah.
Rich, what's one thing you wish every rancher understood about LRP that they don't? Just a quick hit question here.
I think, talk about objections that we kind of run in there. Everybody wants to hit the high, right? Everybody worries, oh, I said it, and then man, it went up $2 or $3. I should have waited last week. And it's like getting people to understand, like, that's what Logic Ag does. Like, this is our starting point. Okay, it's not make one decision and say like, oh boy, I hope you hit it right. Because if you look at a guy, whenever they sell, whether it's fat cattle, feeder cattle, cow calves, in their lifetime, they'll probably hit the high a handful of times. Probably you can count them on one hand. And it's like, what we're doing is we're saying we're getting to decision point one. And that's kind of how we coined the term on there is, okay, we're setting in a bottom right now. We've protected this much on here. If the market goes up higher, well, what are we going to do to capture that? But the whole time we want to kind of leave that upside open as long as we can and keep ratcheting up our net profit on there. So I would say just understanding that don't try to outguess the market because nobody freaking ever knows what the market's going to do on there. Know your break even, protect it to start, and then after that we can figure out some other options to kind of capture that.
Rich always hits a home run on these deals. I think he's the best in the business at it. So kind of hard to follow.
You wish,
especially when I don't have a
and
mustache, Nick.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I'd buy everything from Rich there with that for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Send that out to everybody.
Steven, what's one piece of advice you'd give to a younger rancher just starting out about managing risk?
Well, I tell you, I kind of feel like I'm there right now. I'm in low 30s, but I guess my best piece of advice was probably find good business partners. I mean that from your banker. Find a bank that does business the way you want to do business. Find a commodity broker that looks a lot like me, and then get a crop insurance agent like Rich Canupy would probably be my best advice to a guy. And I say that kind of tongue in cheek, but legitimately, I truly feel like Rich and I are involved in this day to day in our own deal, and just the enthusiasm and the excitement that I think we bring to guys and trying to educate them around what their cost of production is. I really feel like, just finding those good business partners at a young age to, find like-minded people that going to help you succeed. And I don't know, mentorship would probably be somewhere in there.
Rich, any pointers from you?
Just buy the cattle. Buy the cattle and you'll figure it out with the risk protection side of it. I do think, we started really growing 5 or 6 years ago, and a guy's always looking for the perfect opportunity. You always want to find the grass where you get the cattle. Sometimes you just got to stick your neck out and go, but don't stick your neck out so far you're gonna risk losing a lot of stuff on there. Just buy the cattle, use LRP, use some kind of risk management on there. Where if it goes up, you can hit a home run and keep growing. But if it goes down, you're not gonna lose the whole place. And then I would agree with Steven. I'd say step one is marry right. That's a good one because those wives, they're going to be with you making a lot of those big decisions and writing those big checks. And so you want someone that's very supportive. And then, the old saying of if you hang out with 9 broke people, you're going to be the 10th. That's a very real statement on there. And so I'd say hang out with 9 successful people, and by golly, you'll be the 10th on there. I can guarantee you that.
Awesome. Yeah, great pointers there for sure. Rich, Steven, thanks for breaking all this down. Really appreciate you guys sharing what you guys know and what you're seeing out there too. So if you're a producer and you want to learn more about LRP, or you just want to talk through your risk management strategy, reach out to these guys here at Logic Ag Marketing. They've got advisors who can walk you through it all. And if you're not already getting Logic Ag Marketing's daily market newsletter, We'll have a link in the show notes, and in those newsletters, we cover cattle, hogs, and grain market updates too as well. So a lot of good stuff in those newsletters, and a lot of great information here in today's podcast too. So thanks, Stephen. Thanks, Rich.
I appreciate you having
Sounds
us
good.
on.
Thanks for having us.
Awesome. Perfect. Yeah, and if they want to get in contact with you guys, your guys' information is on the website, or we can drop some contact information in the show notes on YouTube here below. So thanks again, guys.
You bet.
I
Have a good
appreciate
one.
you, Nick.